T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8,
Saddam Hussein
7,
and his sons
6,
must
we have
leave
main
Iraq
engine
within
start.
48 hours.
4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff.
The United States has already had a busy day attacking Iraq.
We are in the early stages of the effort to disarm Iraq.
And it was shocking and it was awesome as predicted by the Pentagon.
Now, most of this noise at the end of this videotape sequence, the big explosions, or what I call the huge explosions, are believed to have been hits on something by Tomahawk missiles.
Again, you're listening to Enemy Combatant Radio.
And we're taking reports in all the time from the streets.
San Francisco Indie Media's stream live from the mission.
All the demonstrators have their own radio station. They are broadcasting, and they are, we assume they are listening to us. We are monitoring their broadcast. We got 10-4. They really seem to like the intersection name of Bush and Powell. Okay, 10-4.
Dozens of anti-war activists just sat in the middle of the intersection. Police moved in quickly.
Thousands battled police in an effort to shut down downtown San Francisco.
Fremont, they got it all shut down. They've taken over Van Ness and looks like Oak. Yeah, they've also taken over Fell Street. They got more than what we can handle here.
They plan to be out here as long as American troops are attacking the Iraqis.
They bound themselves together with pipes and duct tape. Many laid down.
Now, students from high schools all over Oakland walked out.
Demonstrators took to the streets today in groups large and small.
We just heard news that Baghdad is being leveled right now, and I'd like us all to just have a few moments of silence.
We refuse to carry on business as usual while American soldiers and Iraqi civilians die under the machinery of war.
We blocked the federal building and all entrances.
Live report from the federal building. You're live on the air on Enemy Combatant Radio. Federal building, can you hear me? Peace!
Some of the protesters actually regurgitated and vomited at the federal building in some sort of a display to show them that the war made them sick. So that was happening as well today.
That's incredible.
Teamsters today abandoned big rigs in the intersection of Van Ness and Fell.
Determined to stop traffic, some streets were temporarily shut down with duct tape.
Newspaper racks, and they're blocking
All of San Francisco shut down, major intersections.
You can turn around. They're starting to get in physical fights with the people in the cars.
What are you guys on welfare? What are you guys on welfare?
We took to the streets because we tried marching, we tried voting, we tried petitions, we tried rallies, and they fell on the deaf ears and the numb hearts in Washington. And so we did what people have done throughout history to uproot injustice. We exercised our conscience directly. We communicated our message directly.
Two words: wartime profiteering. That's what this is all about. Halliburton and Bechtel are two major multinationals that are making money out of war. Halliburton has the contract for privatizing the setting up of camps and the running of camps for the military in Kuwait, in Turkey, and in Jordan, 3 countries surrounding Iraq. They are the sole contractor right now to the U.S. military in charge of privatization of military support services. Another company that's made a lot of money out of the war is a company called Bechtel. A company like Halliburton has had a number of war contracts over the years, and currently they have the contract to rebuild Iraq, to in fact rebuild the very places that the United States bombed.
Bechtel, which is one of the largest multinational corporations that are winning bids to rebuild Iraq after the war. They've also earned $9 billion in profits since World War I.
Go into Iraq under U.S. occupation and be able to make super profits off of building those things that the Iraqi people can build for themselves. Bechtel provides a lot of the construction, so a lot of Iraq's infrastructure has already been destroyed in the Gulf War, and because of the sanctions, they haven't been able to import simple things like pipe to restore their water treatment systems.
The way Bechtel and Halliburton get these contracts is their friends in high places. These are companies that are extremely well connected to the U.S. government. Halliburton is, a major funder of the Republican Party. In fact, their former chief executive is our vice president. Dick Cheney was the chief executive of Halliburton. Riley Bechtel is the chief executive of Bechtel. Riley Bechtel was appointed to advise the president, George Bush Jr., on his export council. 7 weeks after he was appointed to that position, they won perhaps the biggest export bonanza for the United States. That's the rebuilding of Iraq. As an advisor with the ear of the president, he gets the first contract, which could be worth, people say, as much as $100 billion down the road. Companies like Bechtel and Halliburton definitely play an important role in influencing foreign policy and defense policy, or you could say offense policy in the United States. The federal government consults with these companies before they go to war, and so determines the nature of the war. So, for example, in October of last year, 2002, the federal government, Dick Cheney's office, met with a bunch of companies, including Halliburton and ExxonMobil and Chevron Texaco, to talk about how they would take over the Iraqi oil fields. Undoubtedly, they looked to profit from it, and they definitely steered the way the war was conducted in their private meetings with Dick Cheney and the U.S. administration.
Sent Thursday, March 27th at 11:30 p.m.
This is Sam Green. I work with a bunch of people at Bechtel, and we hate you. You are on the wrong side of this war. 71% of the country supports Bush. You've got the wrong idea. We want you to stop demonstrating, stop bothering us. And your numbers are decreasing every day. The war is going forward, and it is not going to stop. So give it up, okay? You are on the wrong side. In fact, you are aiding and abetting Saddam Hussein. Aiding and abetting. You are accessories to murder. Give it up, wrap it up, go away.
Disobedience and more of the more progressives. You will not accommodate the war
targeting certain corporations, I believe, that they think have something to gain by the war with Iraq.
Has this been pretty exhausting?
Well, I'm here today with George Bush Sr. And George Bush Sr. is he's a consultant for the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group is going to benefit. They're going to make millions, probably billions, on selling their weapons. It's war profiteering. It's insider trading, having top, ex-government officials get these defense industry contracts and profiting off of the death and destruction of people in Iraq and all over the world. We're here today because we're putting out a message to all war profiteers. If you think you're going to make profits off the death of the Iraqi people, whether it's Carlyle Group, Halliburton, Bechtel, you are put on notice. We are going to expose you, and we are going to make it as difficult as hell for you to stay open.
You're getting a big influx right now, and it looks like the black bloc guys with the flags and all that crap.
Anti-war protesters wearing black marched from Civic Center Plaza to 7th and Mission Streets.
And there's about 500 black bloc people, and we're all headed to the financial district. People are now putting barricades in the street, so things are starting.
Jesus! What are you doing? Jesus Christ!
Does it seem to you, along with the anti-war protesters, there are simply people who seem to be seizing on an opportunity just to come out into the streets and simply maybe cause trouble?
Absolutely, Julie.
Is traffic getting any better there, Amber?
Frank, this is a good example of...
No war in Iraq. No blood for oil. No war in Iraq.
We're gonna...
No blood for oil.
You can see that people...
They are cooperative. They are just being very disruptive.
Bush is a terrorist! Bush is the biggest terrorist!
Yeah!
They're done.
Fuck that!
Hey, put this stuff on the news! Come on, put some real criticism! 1, 2, 3, impeach Bush! Impeach Bush! This war is going to increase the chance of terror! Impeach Bush!
Some tried to stop KTVU photographer Martin Holton from videotaping what they were doing.
Get the fuck over! Get the fuck over!
Fuck you, gentlemen! Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you!
Experience the CBS Evening News. Stay with ABC 7.
The U.S. media acts as a spokesperson, a mouthpiece for the Pentagon, even to the extent that we're seeing phraseology that's put out by the U.S. government PR machine repeated over and over again on every single media outlet.
U.S. surgical bombing, the strategic strike.
Targets of opportunity.
Target of opportunity.
A target of opportunity.
Iraqi leadership decapitate.
Decapitation. Decapitate.
Bombing on the scale that will shock and awe. Shock and awe.
Shock and awe.
Shock and awe.
If you have to ask, is this shock and awe, you're not seeing it. Because when it happens, it will be absolutely, positively no doubt of what you're seeing. So if you're saying, oh, could that possibly be it? No, it's not, because it will be so overwhelming, so ferocious in its scope and magnitude.
It's like a brief intermission in some terrible but real movie.
Exactly the case.
People in other countries all over the world were seeing the innocent people who were being killed, the people who were injured in hospitals. They were seeing interviews with humanitarian workers who were talking about the humanitarian crisis, interviews with doctors, and we weren't seeing that on U.S. television.
Every bomb drop, more than 1,000 in all, was precision guided.
It has much smarter, if you will, much smarter weapons.
As you well know, these cruise missiles are very accurate.
one thing to point out about these precision weapons.
It's expected to totally sell out.
In the Gulf War I, about 10% of the weapons were precision or guided either by laser or by satellites.
The gold alone, that's 4.5 grams. At today's market, that's your $99 right there.
This time around, it's just the opposite. 10% are so-called dumb bombs, 90% precision. It's amazing how the weaponry has changed over the 12-year period. This is a plane that is not easily seen by radar. These bombs that we're talking about, mini bunker busters with about a 500-pound warhead on them, designed with a time fuse so they penetrate concrete.
This president is very confident about the military's capabilities to deliver strikes inside Baghdad while keeping civilian casualties to a minimum.
Coalition forces will make every effort to spare innocent civilians from harm.
When you ignore the fact that we've dropped thousands of bombs on cities the size of Los Angeles, that thousands of innocent people have been killed that aren't even accounted for yet, the destruction to the environment, the humanitarian costs of the war that are still unknown, the reality is it's not liberation. And who's going to profit? It's going to be U.S. corporations with close ties to the Bush administration that are already rushing into Iraq to take over Iraqi resources.
Troops are ready to use the port as a launch point, delivering aid to the Iraqi people, but fighting is slowing down the plan.
They know they're being liberated. This is not conquering a country, this is liberating a country.
We don't want to take out targets that we're going to need to use to help the economic prosperity of Iraq as we finish this war.
We have no ambition in Iraq.
Iraqi oil fields are estimated to be worth more than $112 billion.
That's our only reason for being out here, is to restore these wells so that we can restore the economy of this great nation and these great people.
It is amazing how many journalists were in Iraq and how little information we got about what was actually happening there, because the Pentagon brilliantly embedded the journalists in the military and convinced the journalists that they were associated. In fact, they were part of military units. They kind of were out there acting as warriors themselves.
And we'll see if phase 2 or phase 3 maybe of some sort of battlefield prep happens, or maybe something else.
Well, clearly, as promised by the Pentagon and the administration for a period of months now, in the event of war, it would be the most open and watched and seen and videotaped war.
We're going to bring that up for you and try to give you a sense as we zoom in on Baghdad through the keyhole machine. If you could put that up for me, we'll get there. That's actually the wrong machine as well.
We know of movement on Basra, but there are no cameras there.
As we look at these quite compelling pictures that, of the night sky.
You are seeing now a live picture from Baghdad.
The Navy is letting these pictures come back live. Very important the way the administration has brought much more openness to us than in the past.
U.S. reporters were embedded.
We're the leading edge. We're the cutting edge. That is, the 7th Cavalry is the cutting edge.
What do you make of all of this stuff with these journalists riding along with the forces? You didn't do it that way back then. Now, what's your sense of it? This a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. If you'd asked me that 15, 20 years ago, I might have had a different answer, but the proof here is in the pudding and how the team of journalists and the team of military have merged together, and I think it's for the benefit of both, and it's also for the benefit of the American people and people around the world that see just what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Was it a big lie or just a cover to justify your invasion of Iraq and to remove its regime?
As this operation continues, those weapons will be identified, found, along with the people who have produced them.
General Frank set the bar very high for finding weapons of mass destruction. He said there's no doubt that they have them. And, you know, a CENTCOM official the other day conceded to me that in some ways, finding those weapons and proving to the world that Iraq had them is even more important than getting rid of Saddam Hussein. There's simply no way that this battle can be called a success if the U.S. can't prove beyond a doubt that Saddam had those weapons, and none have been launched yet and none have been found.
I'll see you along the trail.
I mean, we're getting beat up all over the city here. People on street cover with their bikes. 10-4, do you need help?
Well, there's more of them than there are us.
Get here, because this is where the shit's going to hit the fan. We just don't have any troops to send to you, Tom.
Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor. A year has passed, and we do honor to our beloved dead who fell before the sneak Jap.
I've been traveling now to the Middle East for 40 years. I've made over 30 trips to places like Afghanistan. I've seen for myself these terrorists, these Islamic militants. They hate the United States.
When I say history is a way of repeating itself, is I found out that immigration crucifying immigrants. This is not the first time.
When I think about yesterday and how it affects Arab Americans, I get chills up my spine. I wish during the Pearl Harbor time there were more people that stood in solidarity for us. Yes! And so that's why I'm here as part of API Force to stand in solidarity with you.
It happens with the Chinese Exclusion Act. It happens following many years after that with the internment camp, putting away 120,000 Japanese Americans just because of their country of origin and their race, even though many of them are actually American citizens. And today, with the Southeastern Muslim Arab Americans, they're under the same kind of destiny. They're going through the same thing. They're being crucified, they're being ostracized, they're being detained, they're being put away for the same reason. That's why I'm here today. That's why I say history is a way to repeat itself.
We feel that when people of Arab and Muslim descent are attacked and their civil rights are violated, that this affects everyone.
What it actually feels like to be part of a community that's being targeted by special registration.
Because these days, if you're a man age 16 or over from any country that's predominantly Muslim, you're assumed guilty until proven innocent.
When I came into the INS checkpoint, they saw my passport and it says clearly country of origin is Iraq. They asked me to step into a room where the first question I was asked to me by the two officers that were in that room was if I was a Muslim or not, and whether or not I was patriotic and to whom I was patriotic. Do I have beef with what, or do I have problems with what the United States is doing to my country? Mistakenly, not realizing that until after I'd been trapped, I said, yes, I do have a problem with what's happening in Iraq. And that was the mistake I made, was thinking that I could actually speak my mind to these folks and that any of my amendment rights counted at this point. I was held for a duration where they began to ask me questions about affiliations with any groups that might be doing any terrorist activities, if I had gone home in the recent time periods. I felt demonized and criminalized, and I almost felt the pressure to produce an answer that wasn't there just to stop the madness. I don't know, seemed to infuriate these people more and more and more and more because they were sure they had someone, and in fact they had no one.
Well, today, April 25th, marks the deadline for the 5th wave of special registration. Special registration being a new policy to really round up Arab, Muslim, and Middle Eastern, South Asian immigrants in the U.S. to make sure, kind of like placing a surveillance tag on them. They've put it under the pretense of special registration, something that's going to extend to the entire population of immigrants. But what they're really doing is labeling anybody in this country who is Middle Eastern, Arab, or Muslim as a terrorist.
It's all about fitting a profile. If you have facial hair and your olive to dark skin, you get profiled right away. I know a lot of people who have been harassed at airports, held up at airports, detained at airports. I know folks that everyone I know actually from Iraq has been contacted by the FBI. The most interesting thing about that program with the FBI is that the first thing they asked my parents when they answered the door, in fluent, perfect Arabic, they spoke to my dad and they said, has anybody been harassing you since the war started? They entered the home under the guise of being here to protect us from our neighbors or something like that. When they came inside the house, what turned into an attempt to protect us quickly turned into an attempt to get my dad, my brother, and any other males down to a local holding area for an interview, a special interview.
Is your knowledge based on specific targets, or has this decision been made based on the weight, more of the weight of everything that you're looking at?
I think we'll stick with the statements we've made, that intelligence, which is assessed on a regular basis, provides a very sound basis and a responsibility for us to communicate what we believe to be an elevated threat to the American people.
This so-called war is not a war on terrorism. It's a war on people of color. It's a war on people who are oppressed. And it's a war against people who oppose this war.
This is not the first time.
I am frightened for what will happen to my people.
We've been here, we've felt this before, and we cannot let this happen again. We cannot let the racism and the xenophobia turn on us.
Expedite wagon, we're starting to get some resistance here, Market Field. I was just talking to the leader of the Peace March here. They said this is a designated non-violent rally here.
So if you want to announce that on the bullhorn, they just went. Another 30 people just knocked down at the other corner.
Here are some of the spots that we've heard. There are protests. We have Bush and Powell, Beale and Market, Pine and Sansom, Broadway and Battery. We also have now Montgomery and Clay, Van Ness and Fell, as you saw, Sansom and Sutter, Broadway and Battery, and of course 5th and Market. We had earlier a 5th and Mission, so all over the city and now spreading out into the Mission District. You can see one there at Valencia at 16th. There was a demonstration there, and we have word that there was a demonstration actually at Van Ness and Lombard. So you can tell that the protesters are fanning out throughout the city.
The group of Black Bloc people was last seen at Sansom and Bush, and they're on the move, and we're not sure if we've got anybody with them currently. Could you try to find these Black Bloc people running around? 10-4, that's what we'll do.
Guess what? This is the United States.
That's right.
I have my
That's
belief.
right.
You have your belief. That's right. You know why you're allowed to do this? Because this is the United States.
That's right, it is.
Why don't you go to Iran, Syria, Iraq, and stand there and protest against the government and see how far you get?
I know. I don't think that's okay. That's why I'm here now.
That's why I'm here now, too.
This is about George Bush's oil money. And our kids are dying for him.
This is about the opportunity. This is about the opportunity you be here.
There was a group, and when I say a group, I mean 10 people who came here to support the war and support President Bush.
So what do you think about the pro-war rallies that have been happening and the coverage, for instance, that the media has given to them versus the coverage of anti-war rallies or pro-peace rallies?
I think it's very small. Their numbers are tiny, probably less than 300 or 400. A few weeks back, we marched in the streets of San Francisco and it was over 200,000 people, and it was nothing more than a footnote.
Now, although the big rallies today were against the war, many people are fervently in favor of it.
This lone demonstrator took a lot of razzing and faced some outright hostility today, but he stood his ground, or rather his car.
For these people who are saying they're supporting the soldiers, they're at the pinnacle of ignorance because our soldiers are walking along contaminated ground. That's why Mr. Chirac is laughing at us, because we dropped depleted uranium over there and it's radiological, and we have 160,000 of us that get a check every month for $201 for undiagnosed illnesses, because if they diagnosed us, that means they would have to admit that they used radiological fucking weapons over there.
And we love our troops. We had a rally 2 weeks ago in Marin, and the response was fantastic. Thank God that we have a president like President Bush that has the guts to show the world that you're not going to let get away with terrorism and provide a safe world for our children and grandchildren.
When we were 23 and we were fighting this thing, the children that are fighting this now were 6 years old. And I think in my mind, I said, Mr. Bush, what have you done? What have you done?
I have been to other lands and places far and near. I've traveled the road that leads to Mandalay. I've been to Rome and Paris and foggy London town. I've thrilled to the legend and story, and I've seen their glamour and glory, but no other land can top the USA. Oh, I'm just a flag-waving American, a citizen I'm really proud to be. I'm just a flag-waving American, a liberty-loving red, white, and blue variety.
I'm very happy to read this slogan. I'm proud citizen of noble nation.
Flying high, for I'm just a flag-waving American who believes there's no better land beneath the sky.
It's about weapons of mass destruction and freeing the Iraqi people.
I think some of the people are probably, really very nice people that are very misguided. And I think many of them are really stuck in the 60s.
The oil there is the Iraqi people's oil, right? We aren't going to take it from them. We might buy it. I mean, is it bad that we protect their asset for them?
I think that from our standpoint, I think that we have every right, once we've gone in there, or we've done what we've done, to be able to recoup our costs. Yeah.
Recoup our costs.
Yeah.
For bombing them.
Yeah.
But if there are no weapons of mass destruction found in Iraq,
that would be a problem.
They attacked us. And I mean they in a very general sense. I think that if you look at a region and you have, 98% of them came from the Middle East or some part of the Middle East, that I think that they no matter what we do, they would always hate us.
So it's Middle Eastern people.
Well, I think that from a standpoint of, why are we there? We're there because we are making a claim that terrorism is rampant in this world, and we are putting a stop to it. And to use a kind of a term from a past movie, there's a new sheriff in town, and we're not putting up with the BS anymore.
All right.
For justice, for peace. You must out the Middle East for justice, for peace.
This is the Independent Media Center. The Military Recruitment Center was trashed, to say the least. Windows broken, files and things from inside thrown out onto the streets.
There are thousands and thousands of people coming out to say no to U.S. empire.
The chemical equation for gunpowder was first published in 1044. The cannon and the gun were developed by 1280. The first bomb was dropped from an airplane in 1911 by an Italian pilot onto an oasis village in North Africa as part of the Italians' war to subjugate Libya. In 1925, the French launched an aerial attack on the rebels in Syria, who were uprising against the French colonists. More than 1,000 civilians were killed in the bombardment of Damascus, which horrified the international community. In 762 AD, Abu Hanifa, founder of a law school in Baghdad, was the first legal scholar to forbid the killing of women, children, or other non-combatants. In 1925, Billy Mitchell, veteran of counterinsurgency wars in the Philippines, wrote of his admiration of the British use of terror from the air against the new nation of Iraq. The Air Force, he said, will become a powerful agent for peace. Visiting Baghdad in 1825, the British Viceroy to India remarked on the city's impressive libraries. Surely, he said, this must be the most civilized country in Asia. The bombardment of undefended cities and peoples was always the favored form of warfare for the colonial and imperial powers. The map of the oil-rich Middle East will be redrawn, but that is only the beginning. For in the destruction of Baghdad lies the logic of empire. What is at stake is the true madness of the world market, an imperial grand design to make the world safe once and for all for capital, empire, and never-ending war.
Jennifer.
Well, Leslie, most of the protesters sat on car hoods and hit the cars with their fists and even with some bottles, holding motorists hostage. One woman was trapped in her car at Market and 5th here while protesters argued among themselves over what to do with her. Some of the protesters urged the rest of the crowd to force the woman from her car, send her walking home on foot.
I mean, that poor woman was trapped and very frightened. And there's a couple people out here who are really drunk and really stoned and causing, there's a couple of bad ones and causing a lot of problems.
Other emergency vehicles have also been trapped in these standoffs, so public safety continues to be a big concern out here. Also, we did find out that these protesters are costing the city an estimated $500,000 a day in police overtime alone.
Just keep it fair now. Most of these people are doing
I have been so fair because I have seen so much shit that I haven't talked about. That if I were fair, I would have said, I mean, these guys just want somebody to be mad at.
All the public works crews now scrambling to clean up graffiti. There are anti-war messages scribbled and spray painted on just about every visible surface.
You understand that there's violence and destruction going on. It's not like, well, we can't shoot it.
Whoa! That's live and fun. Police! Where's the police? Police!
Where is she from?
911. Who's got the number for 911? Help! Anybody got the number to 911?
Who did that? Who's a coward? Who did that? Why didn't you come talk to me in my face? Come here! I want to know.
She's a newswoman.
From where? What channel?
Like channel.
You got hit by a drive-by rat. That came from the stars. It was the Iranians, lady.
I understand you had some tough moments out there today. You okay?
I'm all right. There have been some very violent pockets of protesters, and they did turn on several of the Channel 2 news crews. Tonight, I was the unfortunate victim of a pie attack. That's not quite as bad as it could have been, though. Some of our news staff was attacked by screws, bottles, and spray paints.
This is a huge screw. I don't know if you can see it. These are the kinds of things being thrown out there tonight at both reporters, at police officers.
These are just some of the potential weapons police seized today, enough to fill a hardware store.
I've been around for 30 years. This is the largest number of arrests that we've made. This, to me, is the largest demonstration in terms of disruption that I've seen.
As you can see from this picture, we can see that Market Street is shut down.
Protesters made no bones about it early on, saying that they were going to shut down the city of San Francisco on the first day of the bombing, and in effect they have done that.
What the police have been trying to do all day long was keep them off the Bay Bridge. Now apparently they've even made their way onto at least an on-ramp to the Bay Bridge.
They're going running up to the on-ramp. 10-4, CHP present.
4M.
There's 3 guys here.
We've only got, well, now we've got 5 CHP here, but now they're coming up to the off-ramp.
They're going to shut that down. All right, keep it diverted.
Protesters at the off-ramp have now shut it down.
Misguided on the. I'm just trying to find my way home.
I'm not misguided. I love biking on the freeway. It's got the best view. Just look at that view.
If you're outraged about wartime profiteering or about the way the government has been run by corporations like Halliburton and Bechtel, you should do something about it. Take to the streets. You really need to be involved in civil disobedience and to tell both the corporations and the politicians that you will not accept business as usual. This is part of freedom of speech. It is an important part of democracy, and I encourage people to do that. Protests, civil disobedience in the streets is extremely important. The fact that people are regularly demonstrating outside Bechtel, I think, sends a message both to the company, its employees, as well as to the media and to the public at large. The important thing is to get the message out on who the real problem is. The real problem is the companies that fund the military, whether it's Halliburton or Bechtel, whether it's the World Bank, or whether it's the politicians who will accept the contributions and do the bidding of these companies.
As a crowd mounted an attack on a symbol of America, not an embassy, a McDonald's.
Tell them to turn off CNN. Tell them to turn off Fox News. The war is not in Iraq. It's on my block. The next communique is going to be posted at IMC. Peace. Daisy.